Good morning. Double Your Sales with Barney Cohen Group. It's Saturday morning at 9 a.m. in Seattle, Washington. And on Saturdays, I present my series called Barney's Business Basics, where I try to, I more than try to, I break down what I think are all the key things that you need to know about running a business. I'm starting from the beginning, and I'm going to give you a little 15-minute segment every week, and each segment will be complete and in and of itself, and it will represent one important thing that you need to know about running your business. I'm going to try and take them in order so that you can get a feeling of where to start and how to build a business, and once you've got your business going, how to keep your business going and get it to the point where it is thriving. So this is my Barney's Business Basics number 3. Number 1 was what is a business, and number 2 was the 3 basic elements or ingredients of a business, and last week in my number 2 was the first of those 3 basic ingredients of a business. So today I'm going to talk about the second basic ingredient in a business, and that is your customer. It's one of those concepts that gets overlooked in some people's mind. They get so wrapped up in their product and in what they're trying to produce that they forget that there's a couple other really basic ingredients in the business besides products, and one of those key basic ingredients is the customer. So today we're going to look a little bit at that essential ingredient, which is your customer, and we are going to talk a little bit about what it means to be a customer, what it means to get a customer, and why it's so important to your business. So customers are important because they provide the cash, which is the lifeblood of your business. You can't run a business without cash. You need to pay your bills, and so if you don't have any cash, you can't pay your bills. In other words, bye-bye business. You don't have a business anymore. So the way you get cash in a business is you make sales, and you make sales with your products to customers. So if you don't have any customers, you don't make any sales, you don't get any cash. The customers are your best source of cash, and this is almost the opposite of what most people think about when they think about getting cash. They think about, oh, I could get a loan, or I could take on an investor. And the problem with that source of getting cash is that you keep paying, and you keep paying maybe for a very long time. If you take out a loan, you have to pay back the loan and pay back interest. And if it's a commercial institution like a bank that's giving you a loan, if you successfully pay back the loan, guess what they want? They want to give you another loan, and then they'll keep giving you reasons why you should be borrowing money from them. If you've taken on an investor, that investor is going to want, yes, his share of your profits, and that never goes away. He's going to want his share of your profits forever. Getting your money from a customer is exactly the opposite. It could be, and it should be, the gift that keeps on giving, meaning that you can make a sale to a customer, and if you do a good job and the customer's happy, he may buy from you again, or he may tell someone else about you. And so done well, meaning taking care of your customers well, is a way of getting more money as opposed to losing more money. So it's a way of keeping money coming in instead of always having to worry about money going out. So the best way to get money coming into your business is to make sales, and to make sales, you need customers. So if customers are so important, what do we need to know about them? The first point I'd like to make is that a customer isn't really a customer until you've completed the sale. And you don't complete the sale until you've done a few things after the customer says, okay, I'll buy it. From that moment where the customer says, yes, I want to buy something from you, you still have 4 steps. And until you do these 4 steps, you won't have a customer because you haven't completed the sale. Step number 1, you have to take an order. Well, that sounds sort of obvious. But there's a lot of pitfalls in there, and there are a lot of companies that stumble in taking an order from a potential customer. Number two, you have to deliver the product. When a customer gives you an order, then it's your obligation to give back to this customer what it is that they're buying from you. They're buying something from you. You have to deliver that to them. That's step number two. Step number three is the customer has to receive the product that you've delivered. Again, that sounds sort of obvious, but steps 2 and 3 also contain pitfalls for certain businesses. And so each one of these steps is something we've got to make sure we're taking care of, because we want our customers to be happy. We want them to have a big smile on their face. We want them to come back and buy more from us. And then step number 4, the customer has to pay you. And until that happens, you have only a potential customer. So steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, taking an order, delivering the product, having the customer receive the product, and then the customer paying you. None of those things mean that a customer is really a customer until those 4 things have happened. And at that point in time, you now have a customer. Now, those 4 steps can happen very quickly in certain circumstances. I owned a record retail store. In my record retail store, those 4 steps happen almost, boom, 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 almost simultaneously. And the length of time it went to go from step number 1 to step number 4 could take as little as 15 or 20 seconds. A customer would walk into my store, they'd browse for a while. I should call them a potential customer. They haven't bought anything yet. They browse for a while, they find an album or 2 that they'd like, or a CD or whatever they wanted to buy that they like. They'd bring it up to the counter. And when they bring it up to the counter and say, I'd like to buy these, then I would say, well, I'd like to ring them up for you. And that's the same as taking an order. Delivering the product is almost no work at all, because the customer has done a lot of the work for me. It's come in a bunch of little steps that we will go into in later segments of the business basics. But a lot of the work of delivering the product to the customer is done way back when I ordered the inventory and made sure that what I thought the customer might like was sitting in the shelves waiting for them. So there's a lot of work that goes into delivering the product, but some of it was done before the potential customer walked into my store. The customer obviously receives my product right at the cash register. I'm going to put it in a bag and hand it to him. And guess what I do? I hand the product to the customer around the same time I'm taking the customer's money. And like I said, if I'm having a busy day, which I hope most of my retail days were busy, the time it took for my customer to bring something up to the counter to the point at which he purchased it from me could take as little as 15 seconds. Now, on the internet, it can take a little longer or a lot longer. A customer can place an order, and my website can take an order from a potential customer, but unless it's something that I can download to him almost instantaneously, delivering the product usually will take a little longer, and then I may have to go to some length to make sure that the customer receives the product, and then how the customer pays me depends on what I've set up on my internet site. It's possible that I could get the promise of a payment right away, but with most payment mechanisms on the website, the money doesn't actually end up in my bank account for several days up to a week, even if I'm taking credit cards or debit cards or using something like PayPal. So the whole thing can take a little bit longer. There are obviously some advantages to doing business on the internet. It's opened 24 hours a day, and I don't have to be physically present in order to have someone open up my website. So clearly there's advantages to doing business on the web, but these 4 steps can take a little longer, and they can highlight some of the pitfalls of these 4 steps. And then the third example I can think of where these 4 steps may take a while would be if the product you're delivering takes time to deliver. I'm a business consultant. Sometimes people hire me to do a project that would take 2 weeks or 4 weeks or several months. And in consulting, it's customary to get some of the money up front, but not get paid all the money until you've delivered all the product, and that that can take some length of time depending on what kind of project the potential customer, the customer has asked you to deliver. So these 4 steps, they're all very important, and they'll all be subjects of later business basic presentations. But I want you to get in your head that the work of getting a customer isn't really done until you finish these 4 steps, and you have these 4 steps between the time where a customer says, I'll buy it, and the time when they're really a customer. One of the best business books I've ever read is called In Search of Excellence. It's one of my favorite books. It's by a guy named Tom Peters. Tom Peters is sort of a legend in Silicon Valley, and a lot of people think he's responsible for a lot of the, at least a lot of the thinking that went into the way many of the technology giants of today were built back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And he was very influential in the developing of a lot of big companies. Again, his name is Tom Peters, and his first great business book was called In Search of Excellence. He has others. He makes a lot of great points, but one of the ones he makes that I think is so important is the need to stay close to your customer. He believes, and I agree with him, that great businesses learn that if they want to succeed, they need to get very close to their customer. Great businesses get obsessed with customers, and they get obsessed in a good way. In other words, they want to learn everything there is to learn about the customer. They want to have a dialogue with the customer. Great businesses have learned that the more they stay in touch with the customer and the more they get in tune with the customer, the easier it is to sell this customer things, and the easier it is to keep the customer and to promote that wonderful magic stuff called word of mouth referrals. And so the great companies get very involved with customer service and customer retention. The best companies have figured it out that if they don't have their customers, they don't have a business. 2 of the companies that almost wrote the book on customer service are here in Seattle, and I use them as examples a lot. They've done so many things well. I'm not trying to say these companies don't make mistakes. Every company makes mistakes. But these 2 companies are well known, I think, to almost everybody. Starbucks, the coffee retail giant, and Nordstrom's, the large department store that specializes in shoes. Both of these companies have made customer care and customer service a cornerstone of their business philosophy and their business practice. And by studying what they've done, you can learn a lot about what you should do if you want to build a great company. One of the things I've learned is that they need to treat their customers really well. You would like it, and they would like it, if in almost every single customer transaction, the customer has a big smile on his face. That doesn't mean the customer is always right. That's a truism that I would say is false. I never liked that saying, and I would go around in my business saying that no, the customer isn't always right. The customer is always the customer. What that means is the customer is somebody we need to take care of, but that doesn't mean they're right. A good analogy might be your family, and if you're a parent and with your children, you're going to take care of your children. You're going to do everything in your power to develop your children and give them all the love and care they need, but they're not always right. Sometimes your children are wrong. And so this idea that the customer is always right, I would like to reject that, and I'd like to replace it with take care of your customer. If you always take care of your customer, most of your customers, the vast majority, will take care of you. And that's sort of the equation that you want to be getting to in running a great business. Anyway, so this little discussion is just a basic scratching of the surface in terms of customers and customer relations. And what this leads to is a lot of questions about customers that I'm going to pursue and bring up in subsequent business basic segments. For startups and very young companies, questions might be, how do I find potential customers? Another question might be, how do I attract potential customers? And a third question I hear a lot is, when should I make my sales pitch? When's the right time to go into selling mode with a potential customer? And another question that gets asked a lot of me anyway by people who are starting in business or young to business is, how much should I charge? That's a really important question, because you want the customer to think that he's getting good value for what it is you're selling, and so you want to find that price point where you're making enough money and the customer is happy. For companies that have reached sustainability and have been in the business for a while and sort of got those things under their belt, key questions that also will be addressed in future segments are, how do I serve customers best? How do I retain customers? And how do I promote word of mouth referrals? These are all things that need attention. I'll leave you with one last point about customers. Great businesses have figured out that if you are going to become a great business and then sustain being a great business, you need to learn how to look at your business the way the customer looks at your business, particularly the way your next new customer looks at your business. The next new customer may be the most important person in your business life. You want to make sure that you understand what your next new customer is looking at when he or she is presented with a decision to buy or not buy something from you. And the great business people learn how to do this. They learn how to look at their own company through the eyes of their existing customers and their potential new customers. And if you can acquire that skill, you've learned something that will help you build a great business. And if you don't acquire that skill, you will probably always struggle with your business. So that's where I'll leave the business basics for this week, a primer on customers. And I hope you will go and look at all of my Barney's Business Basics. I've started a YouTube channel. And you can look at all the Barney Business Basics by typing in Barney the Business Guy Cohen into YouTube, and up will pop my YouTube channel, and I will post each one of these within a day or so of presenting them to my group, and they will just keep building up, and I hope you enjoy them. Thanks so much for joining me this morning. I will see you tomorrow morning with a big idea, and I will see you next Saturday with Barney's Business Basics number 4, and it will be the last key element, the last necessary ingredient of a business. Okay, thanks.